The United Earth Federation starship UES Prometheus enters orbit around Unas Prime, its hull gleaming in the alien sun. Captain Nathan Gray stands on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the swirling green and blue orb below. A priority transmission from Earth Command flashes on his screen, its contents chilling. Humanity's survival hinges on establishing diplomatic relations with the Unas, a species known for their advanced technology and peculiar reproductive habits. Gray's gaze shifts to the ship's main view screen, where sensors reveal a sprawling metropolis on the planet's surface. Gleaming spires and interconnected structures span the horizon, a testament to the Unas' technological prowess. He gives the order to initiate landing procedures, determination etched on his face. Suddenly, alarms blare throughout the vessel. Red warning lights bathe the bridge in an ominous glow. The ship's systems flicker and die as a massive energy surge emanates from the planet below. Gray barks orders, but it's too late. The Prometheus plummets through the atmosphere, trailing smoke and debris. The ship crashes into a dense jungle outside the alien city. Metal screams as it tears through foliage and impacts the ground. When the dust settles, Gray emerges from the wreckage, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. He surveys the damage, his heart sinking at the sight of the once proud vessel, now reduced to smoking ruins. Gray wastes no time. He establishes a secure perimeter around the crash site, organizing the surviving crew into search teams. As they comb through the twisted metal, they pull out survivors one by one. Among them is Dr. Emily Chen, the ship's xenobiologist. Her lab coat is torn and stained, but her eyes are sharp with urgency. "Captain," Chen says, her voice low and tense, "we need to talk about the Unas." Gray listens intently as Chen reveals her research on the alien species. Their reproductive cycle involves ritualistic cannibalism, a fact that sends a chill down his spine. As night falls, the jungle comes alive with strange sounds. Bioluminescent creatures move through the underbrush, circling the crash site like curious predators. The crew's unease grows as tall, slender figures emerge from the foliage. Their skin shimmers with an iridescent glow, reflecting the bioluminescent light around them. At their head is a female Unas, her presence commanding and regal. "I am Ava," she announces, her voice melodious yet alien. "We have come to harvest you for our breeding cycle." Gray steps forward, his stance firm despite the fear coursing through him. "We are not food," he declares. "We are a sentient species seeking diplomatic relations." Ava's head tilts, curiosity replacing the hunger in her eyes. "Intriguing," she says. "Perhaps there is another way. If you can prove your worth, we may consider an alliance instead of consumption." She extends an invitation to their city, offering Gray and his crew a chance to participate in a series of trials. Gray recognizes the opportunity. It's a chance to fulfill his mission and save his crew. He accepts, selecting a small team to accompany him, including Dr. Chen for her expertise on Unas biology. As they prepare to depart, Gray issues final orders to the remaining crew. "Fortify the crash site," he commands, "and keep trying to re-establish communication with Earth." The jungle looms before them, dark and full of unknown dangers. As Gray leads his team towards the alien city, he feels the weight of humanity's fate on his shoulders. Their survival now depends on his ability to navigate the dangerous and alien culture of the Unas, where humans are seen as a potential meal rather than potential allies. The dense jungle canopy swallowed the last glimpse of the crash site as Captain Gray led his small team deeper into the alien wilderness. Dr. Chen walked beside him, her eyes darting from one strange plant to another, cataloging the bizarre flora in her mind. The air hung thick with humidity, carrying unfamiliar scents that tickled their nostrils. Ava glided effortlessly through the undergrowth, her iridescent skin pulsing with soft light. The other Unas moved with similar grace, their elongated limbs barely disturbing the vegetation. Gray's team struggled to keep pace, their boots sinking into the spongy ground with each step. Suddenly, a vine-like tendril whipped out from a nearby tree, wrapping around Chen's ankle. She yelped in surprise as it began to drag her towards a gaping maw in the trunk. "Chen!" Gray shouted, lunging forward. He grabbed her arm, bracing his feet against the ground. With a grunt of effort, he pulled her free just as the maw snapped shut, missing her leg by inches. Chen stumbled, panting. "Thank you, Captain." Ava turned, her luminous eyes widening. Apologies. I should have warned you about the devourer trees. They are overzealous in their feeding habits. Gray nodded grimly, realizing the jungle itself was as much a threat as any predator. They pressed on, now hyper-aware of their surroundings. Hours passed, marked by close calls with carnivorous plants and the distant howls of unseen creatures. As they neared the edge of the jungle, a rustling in the underbrush caught Gray's attention. He held up a hand, signaling the group to halt. A pack of creatures emerged from the foliage, their scales gleaming in the dappled light. They moved with a predatory grace, tongues flicking out to taste the air. Gray's hand instinctively went to his sidearm. "Scale wolves," Ava whispered. "Do not move." The creatures circled the group, their reptilian eyes fixed on the humans. One lunged forward, jaws snapping. Gray dodged, rolling to the side. The rest of the pack attacked in unison. Chaos erupted. Gray fired his weapon, the energy blast searing through a scale wolf's hide. Chen wielded a fallen branch, keeping the creatures at bay. The Unas moved with incredible speed, their hands glowing with bioluminescent energy that seemed to repel the attackers. Ava's voice rang out, a haunting melody that pierced the air. The scale wolves froze, their heads cocking to the side. Slowly they retreated into the jungle, leaving the battered group panting in the clearing. "A calming song," Ava explained, her skin pulsing with exertion. "It soothes their primitive minds." Gray nodded, impressed. "Thank you. That was too close." As they emerged from the jungle, the alien metropolis rose before them, a breathtaking vista of organic architecture. Towering spires pulsed with inner light, while bridges of living tissue spanned impossible gaps between structures. The humans gaped in awe, their eyes struggling to process the alien beauty. Ava led them through winding streets, past curious Unas who stared openly at the strange visitors. They arrived at a massive building that seemed to breathe, its walls undulating slowly. Inside, the High Council awaited. Male Unas, taller and more ornately decorated than their escorts, regarded the humans with a mix of curiosity and hunger. Gray stepped forward, acutely aware of the weight of his responsibility. "Esteemed Council," he began, his voice steady, "I come before you not as prey, but as a potential ally. Humanity has much to offer: technology, knowledge, and a shared desire for growth and understanding." The lead counselor leaned forward, his bioluminescent patterns shifting. "Intriguing. Yet how can we be certain of your worth? Words are easily spoken, Captain Gray. Actions carry more weight." "We propose a series of trials," another counselor added. 3 tests to prove your species' value beyond mere sustenance." Gray exchanged glances with Chen, then nodded. "We accept your challenge." As the council explained the nature of the trials, Chen noticed Ava's gaze fixed on Gray. The xenobiologist observed subtle changes in Ava's bioluminescent patterns, quickening pulses, shifts in color that corresponded with Gray's movements. Chen's scientific mind raced with the implications. When the council adjourned to prepare the first trial, Chen pulled Gray aside. "Captain, I've noticed something interesting about Ava's behavior towards you," she whispered, explaining her observations. Gray's eyebrows rose. "Are you suggesting?" Chen nodded. "It's possible she's experiencing some form of attraction. This could be advantageous for our negotiations." Before Gray could respond, they were led to a vast arena. The first trial, a test of physical prowess, was about to begin. Gray stood at the entrance of a nightmarish obstacle course, his heart pounding. In the stands, Ava watched intently, her skin pulsing with anticipation. A horn sounded, and Gray sprinted into the course. He leaped over electrified barriers, swung across chasms, and navigated through shifting mazes. Behind him, he heard the snarls of a pursuing predator, a monstrous Unas creature bred for the hunt. Sweat poured down Gray's face as he pushed his body to its limits. He could feel the hot breath of the predator on his neck as he approached the final obstacle, a sheer wall with no apparent handholds. In the stands, Ava's bioluminescence intensified, drawing murmurs from the crowd. Her eyes never left Gray's form as he reached the wall. With the predator closing in, Gray took a leap of faith. His fingers found microscopic crevices in the seemingly smooth surface. Muscles straining, he pulled himself up, inch by agonizing inch. As he reached the top, the crowd erupted in cheers. Gray collapsed, gasping for breath, as the predator howled in frustration below. He locked eyes with Ava across the arena. Something passed between them, a spark of understanding, a glimmer of fascination. The moment was broken as the council announced his success in the first trial. As night fell, Gray stood on a balcony overlooking the pulsating city. His mind raced with thoughts of the trials ahead, the fate of his crew, and the enigmatic Ava. Unknown to him, she watched from the shadows, her own inner conflict growing between duty to her people and the strange new feelings stirring within her. In the distance, beyond the city's glow, the jungle waited, and somewhere in that darkness, an unknown force intercepted a desperate message from Earth, adding yet another layer to the complex web of survival, diplomacy, and unexpected attraction unfolding on Unas Prime. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the alien sky, Captain Gray found himself standing before the entrance to a vast chamber. The events of the previous night still deeply affected on his mind, the cryptic message from Earth, the growing mystery surrounding the Unas, and the unexpected connection forming between him and Ava. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. The massive doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a room filled with pulsating holograms and machinery that defied human understanding. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her eyes widening at the sight of the alien technology. "This is incredible," she breathed, her fingers hovering over a nearby console. The High Council materialized from the shadows, their bioluminescent patterns casting an eerie glow across the chamber. "Welcome to the Hall of Cognition," the lead counselor announced. "Here, you will face the test of intellectual capacity." Ava emerged from behind the council, her gaze immediately locking onto Gray. He felt a flutter in his chest, a sensation that both thrilled and unnerved him. Chen noticed the exchange, her scientific mind already formulating theories about interspecies attraction. The lead counselor gestured toward a central platform. "Your task is to decipher our genetic code. This sequence holds the key to understanding our reproductive cycle." Chen stepped onto the platform, holographic displays springing to life around her. Her fingers danced across the alien interface, her brow furrowed in concentration. Gray watched in admiration as she navigated the complex data streams with growing confidence. Hours passed, the tension in the room mounting with each failed attempt to crack the code. Gray paced restlessly, acutely aware of Ava's eyes following his every move. Her skin pulsed with patterns he was beginning to recognize as excitement and anticipation. Suddenly, the chamber doors burst open. A group of Unas stormed in, their skin patterns flashing with aggression. At their head stood a male Unas, his eyes blazing with fury. "I am Zorax," he snarled, "and I will not stand by while you entertain an alliance with our food." Gray instinctively moved to shield Chen, his hand reaching for his weapon. The High Council bristled, their own patterns shifting to defensive postures. Ava stepped forward, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "Zorax, you overstep your bounds. These humans are our guests, not our prey." Zorax sneered. "You've grown soft, Ava. Have you forgotten our ways, our needs?" Without warning, Zorax lunged at Ava. Their bodies collided in a blur of motion, bioluminescent patterns flashing wildly as they grappled. Gray watched in awe as Ava matched Zorax's strength, her lithe form twisting with impossible grace. Unable to stand idle, Gray joined the fray. He ducked under Zorax's swinging arm, delivering a swift punch to the Una's midsection. Zorax grunted in surprise, momentarily distracted. Ava seized the opportunity, using a complex maneuver to flip Zorax onto his back. As the fight raged on, Chen's voice cut through the chaos. "I've got it! I've cracked the code!" All eyes turned to the central platform, where Chen stood surrounded by a swirling vortex of genetic data. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with the implications of her discovery. "Your cannibalistic reproduction," she explained, her voice trembling slightly. "It's not a biological necessity. It's a cultural practice, one that's slowly killing your species." A hush fell over the chamber. Even Zorax and his followers froze, their aggression giving way to shock and disbelief. Gray seized the moment. He stepped onto the platform beside Chen, addressing both factions of the Unas. "We can help you," he said, his voice firm and resolute. "Human science and technology could develop alternative methods of reproduction. We could save your species from extinction." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Zorax's followers exchanged uncertain glances, their loyalty visibly wavering. Ava moved to stand beside Gray, her skin glowing with an intensity that drew all eyes to her. "I support this alliance," she declared. "The humans have proven their worth and their willingness to aid us. We would be fools to reject their offer." The High Council convened in hushed tones, their patterns shifting rapidly as they deliberated. Finally, the lead counselor stepped forward. "You have passed the second trial," he announced. "Your intellect and quick thinking in the face of adversity are commendable. We have decided to accelerate the final trial, the test of emotional resilience." Gray felt a mix of relief and apprehension wash over him. "What does this trial entail?" The counselor's eyes gleamed. "A deep psychic connection between human and Unas. Only through this intimate bond can we truly understand one another." Before Gray could respond, Ava stepped forward. "I volunteer to represent the Unas," she said, her gaze fixed on Gray. The council nodded in agreement. "Then it is decided. Captain Gray will represent the humans, as the leader of your delegation." Chen grabbed Gray's arm, her voice low and urgent. "Captain, we don't know the risks of such a connection. The biological implications could be—" Gray squeezed her hand reassuringly. "I understand the risks, Doctor, but this is our best chance at securing an alliance. I have to do this." As the Unas began preparations for the mind meld, Gray found himself face-to-face with Ava. Her skin pulsed with a pattern he now recognized as nervousness. "Are you ready for this?" he asked softly. Ava's eyes met his, filled with a mix of fear and anticipation. "No," she admitted, "but I believe it is necessary, for both our peoples." Gray nodded, feeling a surge of respect, and something deeper, something he wasn't quite ready to name. As night fell once again on Unas Prime, he steeled himself for the most intimate and potentially dangerous challenge of his life. The fate of two species hung in the balance, and somewhere in the darkness beyond, unknown eyes watched and waited. Waited. The air thrummed with anticipation as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, bathing the alien city in an ethereal glow. Captain Gray stood at the entrance of the sacred chamber, his heart pounding in his chest. The events of the past few days had been a whirlwind, and now he faced the most daunting challenge yet, a psychic connection with Ava that would test the very limits of human endurance. Dr. Chen approached, her face etched with concern. "Nathan, I've run every test I can think of, but we're in uncharted territory here. Are you absolutely certain you want to go through with this?" Gray nodded, his eyebrows furrowed. "We've come too far to back down now, Emily. This is our best chance at securing an alliance and potentially saving both our species." The massive doors of the chamber slid open, revealing a cavern alive with bioluminescent flora. The ethereal plants pulsed with inner light, casting dancing shadows across the walls. In the center of the room stood a raised dais, surrounded by Unas technology that defied human understanding. Ava entered from the opposite side, her iridescent skin shimmering with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Their eyes met across the chamber, and Gray felt a jolt of electricity course through him. The connection between them, barely understood yet undeniable, seemed to intensify with each passing moment. The High Council began the ritual, their movements precise and practiced. Gray and Ava were guided to the central platform, where they stood facing each other. Complex machinery hummed to life around them, filling the air with an otherworldly resonance. "Are you ready?" Ava asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Gray took a deep breath. "As I'll ever be." The world exploded into light and sensation as the mind meld began. Gray felt as if he was being pulled apart and reassembled, his consciousness expanding beyond the confines of his physical form. He was adrift in a sea of memories and experiences, both familiar and utterly alien. He saw through Ava's eyes, felt the warmth of twin suns on iridescent skin. He experienced the deep connection to the living city, the pulse of life that flowed through every structure. And then, like a tidal wave, the truth of the Una's past crashed over him. Gray witnessed the devastating plague that had nearly wiped out their species centuries ago. He felt the desperation of the survivors as they made the agonizing decision to turn to cannibalism as a means of reproduction. The horror of that choice echoed through generations, becoming a cornerstone of Una's culture, even as its biological necessity faded. Simultaneously, Ava was immersed in the complexity of human emotion. She experienced Gray's unwavering sense of duty, his fierce protectiveness towards his crew, and the weight of responsibility he carried as their captain. And beneath it all, she felt the growing attraction between them, a spark that had ignited during their first meeting and now threatened to consume them both. As the mind meld deepened, Gray became aware of a strange sensation spreading through his body. It began as a tingling in his fingertips, then spread like wildfire through his veins. He could feel his cells shifting, changing in ways he couldn't comprehend. Outside the psychic link, Dr. Chen watched in horror as Gray's vital signs began to fluctuate wildly. "Something's wrong," she shouted to the Una scientists. "We need to stop this." One of the Unas shook his head, his skin flashing with urgency. "We cannot interrupt the process. To do so would cause irreparable damage to both minds." Chen watched helplessly as Gray's body began to exhibit subtle changes. His skin took on a faint iridescent sheen, and his muscles seemed to ripple and shift beneath the surface. On the dais, Ava was undergoing her own transformation. Her typically smooth skin developed a more human-like texture, and her eyes changed shape ever so slightly. The mind meld reached its crescendo, and for a moment Gray and Ava existed as one being. They shared a perfect understanding, a unity of purpose that transcended species. In that instant, dormant genetic sequences in both of them roared to life, forever altering their physical forms. As the psychic connection began to fade, Gray became aware of his surroundings once more. He opened his eyes, blinking against the harsh light of the chamber. His body felt strange, alien yet familiar at the same time. He turned to Ava, and the sight of her took his breath away. She had changed, her features a mesmerizing blend of Una's and human characteristics. Her eyes met his, and he knew she saw the same changes in him. "The third trial is complete," the lead counselor announced, his voice a mix of awe and trepidation. "You have achieved a level of understanding beyond our wildest expectations." Gray stepped down from the dais on unsteady legs, his heart pounding from the experience. Dr. Chen rushed to his side, her medical scanner whirring as she examined him. "Nathan, your physiology, it's unlike anything I've ever seen," she murmured, her eyes wide with a mix of scientific fascination and concern. Before Gray could respond, a commotion erupted outside the chamber. The doors burst open, revealing a group of agitated Unas led by Zorax. "Abomination!" Zorax roared, his skin flashing with patterns of disgust and rage. "You dare to defile our sacred rituals with this perversion?" Gray instinctively moved to shield Ava, his newly altered body tensing for a fight. But Ava stepped forward, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "This is not a perversion, Zorax. This is evolution, the key to our species' survival without resorting to our ancient, barbaric practices." As tensions rose within the chamber, Gray's communicator crackled to life. The voice of his first officer cut through the chaos, filled with urgency. "Captain, we've detected multiple alien vessels entering orbit. They're not Unas, sir. We're dealing with a completely unknown species." Gray exchanged a look with Ava, both of them acutely aware that the situation had just become infinitely more complex. As night fell over Unas Prime, 4 factions stood on the brink of conflict: the pro-alliance Unas, Zorax's traditionalists, the humans, and now a mysterious new alien presence. In the midst of it all, Gray and Ava stood united, their unprecedented bond both a symbol of hope and a target for those who feared change. As they prepared to face the challenges ahead, Gray couldn't shake the feeling that the true test was only just beginning. The fate of 2 species hung in the balance, and somewhere in the darkness beyond, unknown eyes watched and waited. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Captain Gray and Ava emerged from their quarters, their bodies forever altered by the mind meld. Gray's skin now had a subtle iridescent sheen, while Ava's features had taken on a more human-like quality. Their appearance drew curious stares from both humans and Unas as they made their way to the High Council chambers. Dr. Chen hurried to meet them, her eyes wide with a mix of scientific fascination and concern. "Captain Ava, I've been analyzing the data from your transformation. The implications are staggering." Before she could elaborate, a thunderous explosion rocked the building. Alarms blared as Zorax and his traditionalist faction launched their surprise attack on the government complex. Gray's newly enhanced senses kicked into overdrive. He could hear the rapid approach of hostile forces, smell the acrid scent of their weapons discharge. Without a word, he and Ava moved in perfect synchronization, their bodies responding to threats before they were even visible. As Zorax's followers poured into the chamber, Gray and Ava became a whirlwind of motion. Gray's augmented strength allowed him to throw a Una's attacker clear across the room, while Ava's lightning-fast reflexes let her disarm 3 opponents in the blink of an eye. "We need to secure the council members," Gray shouted to Chen, who was taking cover behind an overturned table. Ava nodded, her eyes scanning the chaos. "This way," she said, leading them down a hidden passage. As they fought their way through the complex, Gray marveled at how in tune he felt with Ava's movements. It was as if they shared one mind, anticipating each other's actions with uncanny precision. They reached the council chambers just as another explosion rocked the building. The High Council members huddled in fear as Gray and Ava barricaded the entrance. "What's happening?" the lead counselor demanded, his skin flashing patterns of distress. "Zorax," Ava explained, her voice tight with anger. "He's trying to stop the Alliance." Suddenly, Gray's communicator crackled to life. "Captain, this is the horizon. We've got multiple unknown vessels entering the atmosphere. They're heading straight for the city." Gray exchanged a worried glance with Ava. "Can you identify them?" "Negative, sir. They're like nothing we've ever seen before." As if on cue, a brilliant light flooded the chamber. The fighting outside ceased abruptly, and an eerie silence fell over the complex. The doors to the council chamber slid open, revealing a towering figure unlike anything Gray had ever seen. Its body seemed to shimmer and shift, as if not fully anchored in this reality. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Zinthara," the being announced, its voice resonating in their minds rather than their ears. "We have been observing your species for centuries, and now we request an audience." The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. Gray felt a mix of awe and apprehension as he stepped forward to address the alien diplomat. "I'm Captain Nathan Gray of Earth," he said, struggling to maintain his composure. "We welcome you, Ambassador Krell, though your timing is problematic." Krell's form rippled with what might have been amusement. "On the contrary, Captain, our arrival is precisely timed. The hybridization you and Ava have undergone is an unexpected but pivotal development in our grand design." Murmurs of shock and disbelief filled the chamber. Dr. Chen pushed her way forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. "Grand design?" she asked. "Are you saying you've been manipulating our species?" Krell's form shifted again. "Guiding, Dr. Chen. We have been guiding the evolution of both humans and Unas for millennia, and now we stand at the precipice of a new era." As the implications of Krell's words sank in, Gray felt Ava stiffen beside him. He turned to see her clutching her abdomen, her face a mask of confusion and wonder. "Nathan," she whispered, her voice trembling. I think I'm pregnant." The room erupted into chaos as the news spread. Dr. Chen rushed to Ava's side, her medical scanner whirring to life. Gray stood frozen, his pupils dilating from the rapid-fire revelations. Ambassador Krell observed the scene with an air of satisfaction. "The birth of your child will mark the beginning of a new species," the alien intoned, "one that combines the best traits of human and Unas." Outside, the sounds of renewed fighting echoed through the city. Zorax and his followers, momentarily stunned by the Zinthara's arrival, had regrouped and were pushing towards the council chambers with renewed vigor. Gray found himself at the center of a maelstrom, torn between his duty to Earth, his connection to Ava and their unborn child, and the weight of the Zinthera's revelations. As he looked around the room at the faces of humans, Unas, and the inscrutable visage of Ambassador Krell, he knew that the decisions made in the coming hours would shape the destiny of 3 species. With a deep breath, Gray squared his shoulders and prepared to navigate the most complex diplomatic situation of his career. The fate of worlds hung in the balance, and time was running out. The chaos in the council chamber subsided as the gravity of Ambassador Krell's words sank in. Gray's mind reeled from the revelation of Ava's pregnancy, struggling to process the implications, while the sounds of renewed fighting echoed from beyond the walls. "We need to get Ava to a secure medical facility," Dr. Chen said, her voice cutting through the din. "The rate of fetal development is unlike anything I've ever seen." Gray nodded, his newly enhanced senses on high alert. "Agreed. Ambassador Krell will need safe passage through the city." The shimmering form of the Zinthara diplomat rippled in acknowledgement. "It shall be done." As they moved through the corridors, Gray marveled at the changes in his own body. He could hear the individual heartbeats of his companions, smell the acrid tang of weapons discharged from blocks away. Beside him, Ava moved with fluid grace, her own transformation evident in every step. They emerged onto the streets of the Una's capital to find chaos. Zorax's followers clashed with loyalist forces, their iridescent skin flashing with patterns of rage and defiance. Gray's communicator crackled to life with reports of attacks on infrastructure across the planet. "Captain," his first officer's voice came through, tense with urgency. "We're detecting multiple impacts across the city. Zorax is targeting communication hubs and voting centers." Gray's teeth clenched. "Understood. Coordinate with Una security forces. We need to contain this." As they made their way to the medical center, Gray saw the fear and confusion in the eyes of both humans and Unas they passed. The arrival of the Zinthara had shaken the foundations of both societies, and now the impending birth of a hybrid child threatened to upend everything they thought they knew. Inside the medical facility, Dr. Chen worked feverishly alongside Una's experts, their movements a blur as they monitored Ava's rapidly progressing pregnancy. Gray stood by, his enhanced senses picking up every fluctuation in Ava's vital signs, every subtle movement of the child growing within her. "The fetal development is accelerating at an unprecedented rate," one of the Una's doctors announced, his skin flashing patterns of excitement and concern. "The genetic markers we're seeing, they're unlike anything in our records." Hours passed like minutes as Gray divided his attention between Ava's condition and the reports flooding in from across the planet. Zorax's attacks were intensifying, and the arrival of human reinforcements had only added fuel to the fire of Una's suspicion. Suddenly, Ava's body tensed, her eyes widening. "Nathan," she gasped. "It's time." The medical team sprang into action as Ava went into labor. Gray held her hand, marveling at the strength in her grip. Outside, he could hear the growing crowd, their murmurs a mix of anticipation and fear. Dr. Chen's face was a mask of concentration as she worked. "The hybrid physiology is presenting unique challenges," she muttered. "We're having to adapt our techniques on the fly." Gray watched in awe as Ava's body shifted and changed to accommodate the birth. The process seemed to defy the laws of biology as he understood them, a testament to the incredible potential of their merged DNA. With a final push and a cry that seemed to resonate through the very fabric of the building, Ava gave birth. The room fell silent as Dr. Chen held up the child, its skin a mesmerizing blend of human and Una's characteristics, its eyes holding a depth of awareness that sent a shiver down Gray's spine. "It's a girl," Dr. Chen announced, her voice filled with wonder. As Gray cradled his daughter for the first time, he felt a surge of emotion unlike anything he had ever experienced. In her eyes, he saw the future, not just of their 2 species, but of a new form of life that transcended the boundaries of what they had thought possible. The moment of peace was shattered by an explosion that rocked the building. Gray's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of Zorax's voice, filled with hate and fear. "Destroy the abomination," the Unas leader roared. "It will be the end of us all." Gray handed the child back to Ava, his body tensing for battle. He could feel the changes within him, the newfound strength and speed coursing through his veins. Protect them, he ordered Dr. Chen, his voice carrying an authority that brooked no argument. I'll handle Zorax. As Gray moved to confront the threat, he could hear the chatter of his crew aboard the horizon, coordinating with Una's forces to repel the attacks across the planet. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance, with his newborn daughter at the center of the storm. Through it all, the shimmering form of Ambassador Krell watched, inscrutable and eternal. As Gray prepared to face Zorax and his followers, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was all part of some greater plan, one that extended far beyond the concerns of humans or Unas. The battle for the future of both species was about to begin in earnest, with Gray standing at the crossroads of history. As he stepped out to meet the oncoming threat, he silently vowed to protect the new life he and Ava had brought into the universe, regardless of the cost. With a deep breath, Gray stepped out to confront Zorax and his followers, his enhanced senses primed for battle. The chaos outside the medical facility was overwhelming. Zorax's supporters clashed with loyalist forces, their skin flashing patterns of aggression and fear. Gray's newly heightened hearing picked up the distinct sound of Zorax's voice amidst the din. "There!" Gray shouted, pointing towards a group of heavily armed Unas advancing on the building. As Gray moved to intercept them, Ava's voice rang out from behind him. "Nathan, wait!" He turned to see Ava standing in the doorway, their newborn daughter cradled in her arms. The sight stopped him in his tracks. Even from a distance, he could see that the child was changing, growing at an accelerated rate. "Her name is Luna," Ava said, her voice filled with wonder and dedication. "And she needs both of us." Gray nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He couldn't face Zorax alone, not when his family needed him. As if on cue, a joint team of human and Una security forces arrived, led by Chen. "We'll handle Zorax," she said. "You need to protect your child." Gray hesitated for a moment before acquiescing. He returned to Ava's side, marveling at the rapid changes in Luna's appearance. Her skin shimmered with a blend of human and Una's characteristics, and her eyes held a depth of awareness that seemed impossible for a newborn. Dr. Chen approached, her medical scanner whirring. "The rate of her development is unprecedented," she said, her voice tight with excitement and concern. "We need to get her to a more secure location for further study." As they moved through the corridors of the medical facility, Luna continued to grow and change. By the time they reached a fortified research wing, she appeared to be several months old. "This is extraordinary," Dr. Chen muttered, running more scans. "Her hybrid DNA seems to be the key to solving the Una's reproductive crisis. If we can replicate this—" Her words were cut short by another explosion that rocked the building. Gray's enhanced hearing picked up the sounds of fighting drawing closer. "We need to move," he said, his body tensing for action. "The referendum is still scheduled to begin in a few hours. If we can't secure the voting centers—" Ava nodded, understanding the implications. "Go," she said. "I'll stay with Luna and Dr. Chen. We'll be safe here." Gray hesitated, torn between his duty and his desire to protect his family. Luna looked up at him, her eyes showing an impossible understanding of the situation. "I'll be back," he promised, touching Luna's cheek gently before turning to leave. As Gray made his way to the command center, reports flooded in from across the planet. Zorax's followers were launching coordinated attacks on voting centers, causing widespread chaos. The fate of the Alliance and both species hung in the balance. Gray quickly assembled a joint human-Unas task force, utilizing his enhanced abilities to coordinate their efforts. As they moved to secure the first voting center, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was all part of some greater plan, one that extended far beyond the concerns of humans or Unas. The streets of the Unas capital were a battlefield. Gray led his team through the chaos, using his heightened senses to anticipate and counter enemy movements. As they approached the voting center, they encountered heavy resistance from Zorax's forces. "Hold the line!" Gray shouted, his voice carrying an authority that seemed to resonate with both humans and Unas alike. As the battle raged, Gray's communicator crackled to life. "Captain," his first officer's voice came through, tense with urgency. "We're detecting unusual activity around the Prometheus. There's a possibility of sabotage." Gray's mind raced. If the human fleet was compromised, it could derail the entire alliance. He knew he had to make a choice: continue leading the ground assault or return to orbit to protect the fleet. Before he could decide, another transmission came through. It was Ava, her voice tight with concern. "Nathan, Luna's growth is accelerating. She's communicating with us telepathically. You need to see this." Gray froze, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him. The fate of 2 species, the safety of his crew, and the miraculous development of his daughter all demanded his attention. As he stood at this crossroads, he knew that his next decision would shape the course of history for humans, Unas, and whatever new species Luna represented. The sounds of battle raged around him as Gray prepared to make the most crucial choice of his life. The referendum's success, the safety of his family, and the future of interstellar relations all hung in the balance. With a deep breath, he steeled himself for what was to come, knowing that the next few hours would determine the fate of 3 species and change the course of galactic history forever. Gray's decision crystallized in an instant. He tapped his communicator, issuing rapid-fire orders to his team. "Secure this voting center. I'm headed to the medical facility." As he raced through the chaotic streets, his enhanced senses allowed him to navigate the battlefield with uncanny precision. The sounds of conflict grew distant as he approached the research wing, where Ava and Luna awaited. Upon entering, Gray was struck by the sight before him. Luna, who had been a newborn mere hours ago, now appeared to be a toddler. Her skin shimmered with a mesmerizing blend of human and Una's characteristics, and her eyes held a wisdom far beyond her apparent years. "Nathan," Ava said, her voice filled with wonder and concern. "She's been communicating with us, telepathically." As if on cue, Gray felt a presence in his mind, a warm, comforting sensation that he instinctively knew was Luna. Images and emotions flooded his consciousness, conveying a depth of understanding that left him breathless. Dr. Chen approached, her face a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Captain, the data we're gathering from Luna's development is revolutionary. It could be the key to solving the Una's reproductive crisis." Before Gray could respond, his communicator crackled to life. "Captain," his first officer's voice rang out, "the final votes are being tallied. We're approaching a result." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Gray coordinated security efforts from the medical facility, dividing his attention between the referendum results, Luna's astounding development, and the ongoing clashes across the planet. As the final votes were counted, a tense hush fell over the capital. Gray held his breath as the results were announced. 52% in favor of the Human-Unas alliance. The narrow victory set off a chain reaction of events. The High Council, working alongside human representatives, began implementing new policies to facilitate the alliance. Gray and Ava found themselves thrust into the spotlight as living symbols of Human-Unas cooperation. Luna's growth continued at an astonishing pace. By the time the first integration policies were announced, she resembled a young child, her unique hybrid physiology a source of constant amazement and study. Dr. Chen's research team made a breakthrough, developing a new reproductive technology for the Unas based on Luna's hybrid DNA. The innovation promised to maintain genetic diversity without resorting to cannibalism, marking a potential turning point in Unas society. However, not all Unas accepted the referendum results. A group of hardline traditionalists, composed of former Zorak supporters, launched violent uprisings in several major cities. They targeted hybrid-friendly institutions and attempted to destroy the new reproductive technology facilities. Gray, utilizing his enhanced abilities, led a joint Human-Unas security force to quell these insurgencies. During one operation, Ava was injured while protecting a group of pro-alliance Unas civilians. The incident sent shockwaves through the fragile peace. As Gray rushed to Ava's side in the medical center, he was torn between his duties as a leader and his concern for his partner. Luna, now resembling a preteen, placed a comforting hand on his arm. Her touch conveyed a sense of calm and understanding that transcended words. The Zinthara chose this moment to fulfill their promise, activating the planetary defense system and transferring control to the newly formed Human-Unas alliance government. The act of good faith helped alleviate some suspicions, but it also raised concerns about the immense power now at the alliance's disposal. As news of the successful alliance and Luna's existence spread, the galaxy took notice. Diplomatic envoys from various alien civilizations began arriving on Unas Prime, eager to establish relations with the fledgling human Unas government. Amidst this whirlwind of change, Gray received a transmission from Earth Command. The message contained orders for him to return to Earth with Unas representatives to formalize the alliance on a galactic scale. The directive forced Gray to confront a difficult reality, the possibility of leaving Ava and Luna behind due to their unique physiology. As Gray grappled with this dilemma, Luna's rapid development continued to astonish both species. She began exhibiting advanced cognitive abilities and a unique form of bioluminescent communication that combined elements of both human and Una's physiology. Just as preparations for the diplomatic mission to Earth were underway, long-range sensors detected a massive object entering the outer reaches of the Unas solar system. Initial scans suggested a ship or space station of unknown origin, dwarfing anything in the human Unas or Zinthara fleets. Gray stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, staring at the holographic representation of the approaching object. The scale was difficult to comprehend, even with his enhanced perception. "What are we dealing with?" he asked, his voice tense. His science officer shook her head. "Unknown, sir. Its size and configuration don't match anything in our databases. It's not of human, Unas, or Zinthara origin." As the massive object drew closer, Gray felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The fledgling alliance faced its first major test, and the eyes of the galaxy were upon them. "Alert the High Council and Earth Command," Gray ordered, "and get me a secure line to Ava and Luna. We need to prepare for first contact." As the crew sprang into action, Gray couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger adventure, one that would reshape the future of not just humans and Unas, but potentially the entire galaxy. Galaxy. The words had barely left Gray's mouth when the ship's sensors erupted with new data. The mysterious object was decelerating rapidly, its true form becoming clearer with each passing moment. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer reported, her fingers flying over the control panel. It's in multiple languages, including human and Unas dialects." Gray's eyes widened. "Put it through." A melodious voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfectly accented English. "Greetings, inhabitants of this system. We are the Nixari, travelers from a distant galaxy. We come seeking refuge and a new home after centuries of interstellar wandering. We request permission to enter orbit around your world." The bridge fell silent, the crew exchanging glances of disbelief and apprehension. Gray took a deep breath, his enhanced mind racing through the implications of this unexpected development. "Patch me through to the High Council and Earth Command," he ordered, "and get Ava up here immediately." As the crew scrambled to comply, Gray studied the holographic display of the Nixari vessel. Its sheer size dwarfed even the largest ships in the combined human Unas-Zinthara fleet. The implications were staggering. A species capable of constructing and maintaining such a vessel must possess technology far beyond their own. Ava arrived on the bridge, her movements fluid despite her recent injury. Her hybrid physiology had accelerated her healing process, allowing her to recover faster than anyone had anticipated. "Nathan," she said, her eyes fixed on the holographic display, "is that—" Gray nodded. "A generation ship, home to millions if their message is to be believed." The holographic display flickered, split-screen images of the Unas High Council and Earth Command appearing alongside the representation of the Nixari vessel. "Captain Gray," the Unas High Councilor's gravelly voice filled the bridge. "We've received the transmission. What's your assessment of the situation?" Gray's mind raced, weighing the potential risks and benefits of this unexpected first contact. The Nixari claim to be refugees seeking a new home. Their technology appears to be far advanced beyond our own. This could be an unprecedented opportunity for scientific and cultural exchange. "Or a potential threat to our sovereignty," interjected the Earth Command representative. "Captain, you are authorized to open diplomatic channels, but proceed with caution. The security of the alliance must be our top priority." Gray acknowledged the orders, his enhanced senses picking up the subtle tension in the voices of both human and Una's leaders. He turned to Ava, who nodded in silent understanding. "Open a channel to the Nixari vessel," Gray commanded. As the communication link established, a new face appeared on the holographic display. The being had an otherworldly beauty, iridescent skin, large, luminous eyes, and a crown of delicate, antenna-like appendages. "I am Matriarch Zara of the Nixari," the being introduced herself, her voice carrying the same melodious quality as the earlier transmission. "On behalf of my people, I thank you for your willingness to communicate." Gray stepped forward, his posture straight and commanding. "I am Captain Nathan Gray of the Human Unas Alliance. We welcome you to our system, Matriarch Zara. However, we must ask about your intentions and the nature of the catastrophe that led you here." Zara's expression shifted, a ripple of bioluminescence passing across her skin. "Our journey began generations ago, when our home galaxy faced an imminent collision with another. We built this ark to preserve our species and the knowledge we had accumulated. In our travels, we have encountered many civilizations, each contributing to our understanding of the universe." As Zara spoke, Gray noticed Ava's eyes widen. She leaned in close, whispering, "Nathan, their bioluminescent communication. It's similar to Luna's." Gray nodded imperceptibly, filing away this information as Zara continued. "We have been monitoring your communications for some time," the matriarch admitted. "Your alliance between humans and Unas intrigues us greatly. We have long sought to adapt our own biology to better suit the diverse environments we encounter. The success of your hybridization program is of particular interest to our scientists." Gray felt a prickle of unease at the back of his neck. "Matriarch Zara, while we are open to peaceful exchange, I must emphasize that our people, human, Unas, and hybrid alike, are not subjects for experimentation." Zara's antenna quivered slightly. "Of course, Captain. We seek only mutually beneficial cooperation. Perhaps a cultural exchange would be an appropriate first step. We would be honored to host a delegation from your alliance aboard our vessel." As Gray prepared to respond, a priority message flashed across his neural implant. Dr. Chen's voice filled his mind, urgent and excited. "Captain, Luna's insisted on speaking with you. She says it's about the Nixari, something she's sensed." Gray's heart raced, the complexities of the situation multiplying by the second. He glanced at Ava, seeing his own mix of concern and curiosity reflected in her eyes. Whatever came next would shape the future of not just their family, but potentially the entire galaxy. "Matriarch Zara," Gray said, his voice steady despite the turmoil of his thoughts. "We would be pleased to arrange an exchange. However, we'll need time to consult with our respective governments and prepare a suitable delegation. Can you maintain your current position while we make these arrangements?" Zara inclined her head gracefully. "Of course, Captain. We look forward to further discussions. May this be the beginning of a fruitful relationship between our peoples." As the communication ended, Gray turned to his crew. "Maintain alert status. I want constant monitoring of the Nixari vessel." He then addressed Ava, his voice low. "We need to speak with Luna. Whatever she's sensed about the Nixari could be crucial." Ava nodded, her expression a mix of pride and concern. "She's growing so fast, Nathan. Not just physically, but her abilities." "I know," Gray replied, taking her hand as they left the bridge. "And now, more than ever, we need to understand what she's capable of." As they made their way to the secure facility where Luna was being kept, Gray couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something monumental. The arrival of the Nixari had changed everything, and he knew that the decisions made in the coming hours would ripple across the galaxy for generations to come. As Gray and Ava hurried to meet with Luna, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Captain Gray, urgent message from the Nixari," the communications officer announced. "They're requesting an immediate conference with our leadership." Gray exchanged a glance with Ava. "Patch it through to the secure conference room. We'll take it there." They arrived at the facility housing Luna, finding her waiting for them, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly intensity. "Mom, Dad," she said, her voice carrying a weight beyond her years. The Nixari? They're not telling us everything. Before Luna could elaborate, Gray's neural implant buzzed with the priority message. He grimaced, torn between his daughter's warning and the diplomatic imperative. We need to take this call, he said to Ava. Luna, can you join us? Your insight could be crucial. Luna nodded, falling into step beside her parents as they made their way to the conference room. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing matriarch Zara's iridescent form. Captain Gray, we apologize for the urgency, Zara began, her antennae quivering with what seemed like excitement. But we have a proposal that could solidify our alliance in ways we never imagined possible. Gray leaned forward, his enhanced senses picking up subtle shifts in the matriarch's bioluminescent patterns. We're listening, matriarch. Zara's eyes seemed to sparkle as she spoke. We propose a ceremonial mating ritual, Captain, a sacred tradition among our people to forge unbreakable bonds between different cultures. The room fell silent, the implications of Zara's words hanging heavy in the air. Gray felt Ava tense beside him, while Luna's eyes widened in a mix of fascination and apprehension. A mating ritual? Gray repeated, his voice carefully neutral. Can you elaborate on what this entails? As Zara explained the intricacies of the ritual, involving representatives from all species, human, Unas, Zinthara, and Nixari, Gray's mind raced. The potential diplomatic implications were staggering, but the personal cost— We'll need time to consult with our respective governments, Gray said, his tone measured. This is unprecedented. Zara inclined her head. Of course, Captain. We await your decision. As the transmission ended, Gray turned to Ava and Luna. Ava's expression was a mix of shock and curiosity, while Luna seemed lost in thought, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing rapidly. We need to inform Earth Command and the UNA's High Council immediately, Gray said, moving toward the door. The next few hours were a whirlwind of encrypted transmissions, heated debates, and ethical considerations. Earth Command, seeing an opportunity to secure advanced Nixari technology, ordered Gray to participate. The UNA's High Council, after much deliberation, designated Ava as their representative due to her hybrid status. As the decisions were being made, Dr. Chen burst into the conference room, her face flushed with excitement and concern. Captain, I've discovered something in your latest medical scans. Your hybrid DNA, both yours and Ava's, it's showing signs of further mutation. Gray felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of mutation? Chen shook her head. It's hard to say. It seems to be triggered by prolonged exposure to Unas Prime's environment. The implications for this ritual. Before Chen could finish, Luna interrupted, her voice trembling. Dad, Mom, I saw something. A vision. There's danger coming, but it's unclear. Gray knelt beside his daughter, taking her hand. What kind of danger, Luna? Luna's eyes seemed to look through him, focusing on something distant. I don't know, it's all jumbled, but it's connected to the ritual somehow. As Gray processed this new information, alarms blared throughout the ship. The tactical officer's voice came over the intercom. Captain, to the bridge. We have hostiles approaching the ceremonial grounds. Gray sprang into action, his enhanced reflexes carrying him swiftly to the bridge. The tactical display showed a group of Unas traditionalists launching a desperate attack on the ritual site. They're trying to stop the ceremony, Ava said, arriving on the bridge moments later. They see it as the final threat to their way of life. Gray's expression resolute in dedication. Assemble a joint security force. We'll repel this attack ourselves. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Gray led the charge, his enhanced abilities on full display as he coordinated the defense. Unas and human forces fought side by side, showcasing the strength of their alliance. Despite their valor, casualties mounted on both sides. As the dust settled and the last of the attackers were subdued, Gray stood amidst the aftermath, his uniform torn and spattered with blood. The Nixari representatives approached, their eyes wide with a mix of awe and concern. Captain Gray, one of them spoke, their voice filled with admiration. Your leadership in this crisis has been exemplary. We feel it necessary to share more about our true intentions. As the Nixari explained their species' genetic bottleneck and their hope for survival through incorporating human and Una's DNA, Gray felt the weight of responsibility settle even more heavily on his shoulders. Returning to the Prometheus, Gray found Ava waiting for him in their quarters. They shared a long look, words unnecessary as their bioluminescent patterns synchronized in a silent communication of love and support. "Are we really going to do this?" Ava asked softly. Gray took her hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against his. "For the Alliance, for the future of multiple species, yes, we are." As they prepared to leave for the ceremonial chamber, a priority alert flashed across the ship's systems. The planetary defense grid had detected an anomaly at the edge of the solar system, a possible cloaked ship of unknown origin. Gray and Ava exchanged a glance, the new threat adding another layer of tension to an already complex situation. As they stepped into the transport that would take them to the ritual site, Gray couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something far bigger than they could imagine. The biochamber designed for the ritual loomed before them, its alien architecture a testament to the unprecedented nature of what they were about to undertake. As the doors sealed behind them, Gray took a deep breath, the air thick with exotic compounds and pheromones. The ritual was about to begin, and with it, the fate of multiple species hung in the balance. As Gray took his position, he caught Ava's eye one last time, their bioluminescent patterns flaring in unison. A final moment of connection before they stepped into the unknown. Unknown. As the doors of the biochamber slid open with a soft hiss, Captain Gray and Ava stepped inside, their eyes adjusting to the ethereal glow that permeated the space. The air was thick with an otherworldly scent, a blend of exotic compounds and pheromones that seemed to awaken something primal within them. The chamber's alien architecture surrounded them, its curves and angles unlike anything they had encountered before. As they moved further into the room, they saw the other participants, the Nixari representatives, including Matriarch Zara and the Zinthara delegates, already in position. Gray's enhanced senses picked up on the subtle shifts in the chamber's environment, the temperature and atmospheric composition adjusting to accommodate the diverse physiologies present. He felt a tingling sensation across his skin as his body responded to the changes. Ava's hand tightened around his, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with a mix of anticipation and nervousness. "Nathan," she whispered, "I can feel something changing." Before Gray could respond, Matriarch Zara's melodic voice filled the chamber. "Esteemed representatives, we stand at the threshold of a new era. Let the sacred ritual begin." As if on cue, the chamber's bioluminescent walls intensified, bathing the participants in a kaleidoscope of colors. Gray felt a surge of energy course through his body, his hybrid physiology reacting to the carefully calibrated stimuli. The ritual unfolded in stages, each more intense than the last. Gray and Ava found themselves at the center, their bodies moving in perfect synchronization. Their bioluminescent patterns flared and danced, creating intricate designs that captivated the other participants. Matriarch Zara's antennae quivered with excitement as she observed the display. "Extraordinary," she murmured, her own bioluminescence responding in kind. As the ritual progressed, Gray felt his consciousness expanding. The barriers between his mind and the others began to blur. Suddenly he was aware of Ava's thoughts, of Zara's ancient memories, of the Zinthara's unique perception of reality. "Ava," he gasped, his voice barely audible over the low hum that filled the chamber. "Can you feel it?" Her response came not in words but in a burst of shared sensation. They were connected now, not just to each other, but to every being in the room. Outside the chamber, Dr. Chen watched the monitors with growing concern. The vital signs of all participants were fluctuating wildly, but none more so than Gray and Ava's. Their hybrid physiology was undergoing rapid changes, adapting and evolving in ways she had never seen before. "This is unprecedented," she muttered, her fingers flying over the control panel. "I should stop this, but—" Her thoughts were interrupted by a priority alert. The unknown ship detected earlier had moved closer to Una's prime, its intentions still a mystery. Back in the chamber, the ritual reached its crescendo. Gray felt a surge of energy building within him, saw it mirrored in Ava's eyes. Their bodies glowed with an intensity that rivaled the chamber itself. Suddenly, the energy burst forth, a wave of pure genetic potential that washed over the other participants. The Nixari and Zinthara representatives gasped in unison as their bodies briefly took on characteristics of human Una's hybrids. In that moment of transformation, Gray's expanded consciousness touched something vast and ancient. He saw glimpses of the Nixari's long journey across the stars, felt the weight of their struggle for survival. As quickly as it had come, the moment passed. The participants stood motionless, their bodies still tingling from the genetic exchange. Gray's mind reeled from the experience, struggling to process the flood of new information and sensations. The silence was broken by a beep from Gray's neural implant. "Captain," came the urgent voice of his tactical officer. "The unknown ship has decloaked. It's Nixari, sir. Ancient design. They're broadcasting a message." Gray's eyes met Zara's, seeing his own surprise mirrored in her alien features. "Put it through," he ordered, his voice hoarse. A new voice filled the chamber, speaking in an archaic dialect of the Nixari language. Gray's translator struggled to keep up, but the message was clear. This ship carried the original, unaltered Nixari genetic code. The implications hit Gray like a physical blow. The ritual they had just completed, the genetic exchange that had taken place, all of it might have been based on an incomplete understanding of Nixari biology. As if sensing his thoughts, Zara stepped forward. "Captain Gray," she said, her voice filled with a mix of hope and trepidation. "It seems our journey is a long way to go. The arrival of this ship changes everything." Gray nodded, his mind already racing with the potential consequences. The delicate balance they had struck between the various species, the carefully negotiated terms of their alliance, all of it would need to be reevaluated in light of this new development. "We need to convene an emergency meeting," he said, looking around at the still-dazed participants. "Representatives from all species, aboard the Prometheus. We have much to discuss." As they prepared to leave the biochamber, Gray felt a newfound strength coursing through his body. Whatever changes the ritual had wrought in him and Ava, they would need every advantage in the challenges that lay ahead. The doors of the chamber slid open, revealing a world that seemed somehow different than the one they had left behind. As they stepped out into the unknown future, Gray couldn't shake the feeling that the true test of their alliance was only just beginning. As the emergency meeting aboard the Prometheus commenced, Captain Gray found himself at the center of a diverse gathering of species leaders. The tension in the room was palpable, each representative eager to discuss the implications of the ancient Nixari ship's arrival. However, before anyone could speak, a priority transmission cut through the air. "Dad!" Luna's voice rang out, her image materializing on the main view screen. Her eyes were wide, filled with an intensity that Gray had never seen before. "I've seen something important." Gray leaned forward, his enhanced senses picking up on the subtle changes in his daughter's demeanor. "What is it, Luna?" "The ancient ship," she began, her words tumbling out in a rush. "It carries more than just the original Nixari genetic code. There's a pathogen on board, something dangerous. If it spreads, it could devastate everyone involved in the ritual." The room erupted into a cacophony of voices, each species representative voicing their concerns. Gray raised a hand, silencing the chaos. "We need to act fast," he said, his voice cutting through the noise. "Initiate quarantine protocols immediately." As the Prometheus's systems whirred to life, implementing the quarantine measures, Gray turned to the assembled leaders. "I'm assembling a team to board the ancient vessel. We need representatives from each species." Ava stepped forward without hesitation, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with dedication. Dr. Chen, who had been monitoring the situation from her lab, joined them moments later, her medical kit already in hand. As they made their way to the docking bay, Gray couldn't help but marvel at the diversity of the team they had assembled. Humans, Unas, Nixari, and Zinthara, all working together in the face of a common threat. The journey to the ancient ship was tense, each member of the team lost in their own thoughts. As they docked, the airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor bathed in an eerie, pulsating light. "Welcome, descendants," A disembodied voice echoed through the hallway. The ship's AI materialized before them, a holographic representation of what Gray assumed was an ancient Nixari. "I have awaited this moment for centuries." Gray stepped forward, his enhanced physiology on high alert. "We've detected a pathogen on board. We're here to help, but we need to move quickly." The AI nodded, its form flickering slightly. "Follow me. I will show you to the cryogenic chamber." As they moved deeper into the ship, Gray couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking through a living museum. The corridors were lined with artifacts and data terminals, each telling a piece of the Nixari's long-forgotten history. They entered a vast chamber, its walls lined with thousands of cryogenic pods. Each pod contained a sleeping Nixara, their features subtly different from their modern counterparts. Dr. Chen immediately set to work, her fingers flying over her medical scanner. "I'm detecting the pathogen," she announced, her voice tense. "It's unlike anything I've seen before." The Nixari and Zinthara scientists joined her, their own advanced equipment complementing her human technology. As they worked, Gray and Ava explored the ship's database, uncovering the true history of the Nixari. "Nathan," Ava called out, her voice filled with awe. "Look at this." On the screen before them, a map of the galaxy unfurled, dotted with habitable planets. The AI's voice echoed through the chamber once more. "These are the worlds we discovered during our long journey. They could serve as new homes for all your species." As the implications of this discovery sank in, Dr. Chen's voice cut through the air. "I think we've found something. The hybrid genetics from the ritual, they might be the key to creating a cure." Gray felt a surge of hope. They had come here facing a potential catastrophe, but instead, they might have found the solution to multiple problems. Suddenly, his neural implant beeped. "Captain," his tactical officer's voice came through. "We're receiving a transmission from Unas Prime. It's the traditionalists, sir. They're offering help." Gray exchanged a look with Ava, both of them stunned by this unexpected turn of events. As they prepared to respond to this new development, Gray couldn't help but feel that they were standing on the brink of something truly monumental. The challenges ahead were daunting, but for the first time since this journey began, he felt a genuine sense of optimism about the future. The ancient Nixari ship, once a harbinger of potential doom, now held the promise of a new beginning for all their species. As Gray looked around at his diverse team, each member working tirelessly towards a common goal, he realized that this was just the beginning of their interstellar adventure.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.